We have a lot of very talented people here at Case Western Reserve University and the Clinical Translational Science Collaborative. And we're really delighted to have all of you here today, too. Students, postdocs, pre-docs, your mentors are here, community members. And my name is Mary Dolansky. I am a nurse scientist, and my area of research is about how do we translate the evidence that we find in clinical research and get that into practice. So that's that translational piece. And I find that area very inspiring because I see the work that I do connects and shows impact to the patients in which we serve. And so usually when I hear the word research careers, I kind of default to the scientist part. And most frequently, probably many of you do too, we think of the PhDs in the labs. We think about MDs or nurses or nutritionists or physical therapists who engage in clinical science. They're uncovering answers to important questions. They do like research with clinical diagnoses and procedures and interventions to improve patient care and community health. But today, we are opening you all up with a new lens of other careers, pathways, we might say, to engage in research careers. We call these research support professionals, and they're experts who support investigators in that infrastructure and the processes to get the research done. It isn't all about the investigator, it's really about the team that's working collaboratively together to answer research questions. So today, we're delighted to have this panel of such experts. Oh, great, we have a new panel member. And they are here to highlight their careers as research support professionals. So we have, first of all, right here to my left, Sean Fiotti from the Institutional Review Board of University Hospitals. Next to Sean, we have Marcus Huggins. He's a grants and contracts analyst at the Cleveland Clinic. Next to Marcus is Katie Gartner. She's a research administrator at the Cleveland Clinic. Then next to Katie is Rika. She's a clinical research coordinator and data specialist. So if some of you are interested in data, electronic health records at university hospitals. And then on the end, we have Eloise Lemon. She's a research QA quality regulator at the Cleveland Clinic. So welcome to our panel. Thank you so much for being here. And the first question I'm going to have them talk about is, can you provide us a brief insight into your job and what you do kind of typically in a day, in a typical week or a clinical day?
Yeah, so like Mary said, my name is Sean Fiotti, and I'm an Institutional Review Board Specialist at University Hospitals. And if you're not familiar, the Institutional Review Board, or IRB, as we call ourselves, is tasked with approving all human subject research that comes through the institution. So anything working with people or their data, we have to approve it as research. My job specifically as an IRB specialist is to facilitate the board in reviewing protocols, consent forms, all the documentation associated with new and continuing research, and making sure that it is up to code. So we are beholden to all federal, state, and local regulations regarding the conduct of human research, which means that we have to learn and know a heck of a lot of rules and make sure that the research is abiding by those rules and meeting all the criteria necessary for approval. My specific job entails a lot of reading. It entails a lot of correcting and pointing out inconsistencies, alignment issues between documents, and then helping study teams to get their research approved, basically throughout the entire process. So even from the planning stages to we have a full submission study ready to go and we want to get it started, I act as a liaison to those research teams to make sure that they aren't just sort of like, stumbling in the dark and have no idea what they're doing to get IRB approval. A lot of times the research community doesn't always have a high opinion of the IRB because we are kind of the people that say, no, you can't do that, or no, you can't do that way that you want to do it. But we do not see ourselves as antagonistic, and in fact, we are ultimately facilitators of research. We just want to make sure that it is done the right way. So it really helps to have an excellent customer service persona, because you are working with people that will be frustrated sometimes and will oftentimes have questions and have no idea what they're doing if they're new to submitting research. So yeah, you have to have a very good people person attitude, or at the very least, it certainly helps. But yeah, I will now pass it off to Marcus.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marcus Huggins, and I am a my official title is grants and contracts analyst. Outside of work, I say mainly it's finance. It's kind of the easier term. I've been at the role for about 3 years now, and I work in post-award. So like it goes going back to finance post-award, but there's kind of 2 stages in kind of like my field. I guess I would say there's pre-award and post-award, and pre-award it's basically drafting, negotiating the contract, negotiating the budget rates, and once that's all settled, then it would come to me. So, and then at that point, I would basically making sure the budgets, everything matches, everything is what it should be. And then once I process that contract, I would send it off to the accountants pretty much. So really it's just, and I work a lot with industry sponsored, so that's basically like big health organizations. Pfizer is kind of a big one that we work with. So a lot of their contracts, I'm one of the kind of the reps that process that. So, and it's very behind the scenes. Communication is like a good skill to have in this position. As Sean said, we are very big on customer service. Even though I don't really interact with a lot of people, there are a lot of hands involved in the studies. So I don't interact a lot with the PIs, but if the PI has a question, they would come to me in some cases, and we work a lot with like the department admins. So communication, customer service, and just like math skills are skills that I use pretty much every day. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's pretty much my day-to-day routine.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Katie Gartner. I am the research administrator in the IND/IDE office at Cleveland Clinic. So that's the Investigational New Drug and Investigational Device Exemption office. So most times a pharmaceutical company or a medical device company is submitting an application to the FDA because they want to commercialize a new product, a new drug or new device. They want to bring something new to the market. So they're doing research on it because the ultimate goal is commercialization. But sometimes a physician investigator wants to submit their own application to the FDA, and their goal is not commercialization of a product, but instead their goal is just advancing scientific knowledge. They want to know how best to treat their patients. So the goal is not commercialization. So instead, this is a research goal. Those physician investigators that submit their own applications to FDA are held to the same regulatory responsibilities as those large pharmaceutical companies or medical device companies. These regulations are sponsor responsibilities, and they're laid out in federal regulations. So my office is tasked with ensuring that these individual physician investigators are compliant with their sponsor responsibilities. So these sponsor responsibilities are separate and in addition to their responsibilities as a clinical investigator. So whereas the clinical investigator is the one who is conducting the clinical trial, the sponsor is the one who, as I mentioned, is submitting the application to the FDA, maintaining the application with the FDA, monitoring the study, maintaining the data. They have a separate set of responsibilities. So that's what my office is tasked with. In a typical week, my team and I consult with physician investigators to determine whether or not the work that they want to do requires this type of application to the FDA. If it does, then we provide the training in order to advise them on what they're getting themselves into, so that they are knowledgeable about their responsibilities. We also review every application before it goes to FDA to make sure that it is complete, that it includes all of the required elements. And then once the application gets cleared or approved, fingers crossed, by FDA, we do quality assurance on those studies to follow up and make sure that as the study progresses, that physician investigator, which is now a sponsor investigator, because again, they have two sets of responsibilities, regulatory responsibilities. We do follow-up quality assurance to ensure that they're continuing to maintain compliance with those regulations. So that's essentially what my office does.
Thank you, Katie. Rika? Not yet. Is it on? Well, there's an extra one there. Let me try that one. Great.
Hello.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Rika Gully, and I work at University Hospitals under the Harrington Heart and Vascular Institute. I work as a clinical research coordinator, and I'm also a data specialist. I started off as a data specialist first, and then I moved into a clinical research coordinator, which I think is the best thing to do if you do want to work in clinical research. Being a data specialist, we basically implement all of the data from all of the research that happens in our studies. We put them in different EMR, not just, I know you've heard of Epic, that's like our hospital EMR system, but each sponsor medical company, they have their own EMR systems because they want the data as well. And there's a lot of redaction that goes into play, making sure they don't have the patient's PHI or anything like that. And then I moved into being a clinical research coordinator, and what that entails day by day is basically you are to implement the whole research study, making sure you know the protocol, you're consenting the patients, you're screening the patients to make sure they qualify for the study. Each day, I have to say, I've been working in research for 5 years now. Each day has been a different day every day. I have never had a same type of day ever since I've worked at UH. That's the great thing about it. I work under structural heart, and I also work under cardiothoracic studies. So some days I'm in the cath lab, and then some days I'm in the OR. And my job is to make sure that the PI, which is usually the physician, and the team is following the study like they're supposed to, and I'm making sure we're getting the data we need to implement from that study. And that's pretty much it. And I have a great team. That's one thing. If you like working in a team, this is a great job for you because my team is like, we're like family. And that's from the physicians to my director, all the way across the board. We're like a real family. So I'm not just saying that, like, it really is a great environment to work in.
Thanks, Rika. And Eloise.
I'm Eloise Lemon. I am the Regulatory and Quality Assurance Manager over with the Pediatric Institute at Cleveland Clinic. I have been in research for a very, very long time. I've done probably all of the jobs that they're talking about other than the IRB. I've never served on the IRB, although that might be something I'll look for next. So I started out in research a very long time ago as probably a one-girl show when research wasn't being done as much. So I started in right at the ground level and probably worked through what I was doing and opened up a number of these different pathways or different roles as I grew through it and giving me another title and designing whatever the title was till we got to where we had a bigger team with all different levels and that we can do it. My role is working mostly on the post-award side. I do get in a little bit on pre-award. That's when they're first starting, just to make sure that what they're putting together makes sense. All the T's across the I's are dotted, and that we're following all of the local, that being the IRB, regulations along with state and federal regulations. It's a lot of regulatory that goes in this research. Remember, we are trying to find new ways to treat patients, or we're trying to just work with drug companies to put new drugs on the market. So with all of that, there's a lot of regulations to go with it. Then as I work through with the coordinators or the people that are doing the finance, I make sure on the post-award side, just when we are getting ready, everyone's had their training. Either the drug company's going to come in and do it, or if it's an investigator study, That means that the investigator is now serving in the sponsor role. So I will go in to do the training really to the whole team of what that study looks like, what the protocol is going to be like, what the steps we need to go through to get them done, including the pharmacy is invited, and include, just everyone that's going to be a part of that study. Once we get it all, everything has been approved, I make sure they have all the pieces and parts they need so that we don't have what we call deviations, problems with doing the study. We don't have a lot of basically mistakes. We missed this piece in the protocol so that we can get through it and make sure that every person that we go on the study, they're putting a lot of time into it, that we're able to use that data. The data doesn't go to waste. So a lot of times that's mostly what I'm doing. Because the investigator sponsors don't have a drug company with a whole other team that's coming in to look at those records for them, I work with the coordinators after they put all this data in to make sure that it does match what we call the medical record. She was talking about the EMR. When they put that data into what we call the CRF, the case report forms, all the data's got to go into that form. And I make sure that what's in that chart matches what they put into that work. And just to make sure that these folks don't have a lot of things when they're coming in or when the drug company comes in, that we haven't missed a lot of things. We don't have data in there that makes no sense. And they have to go through a lot of corrections. Now, I still have a few mistakes. Someone's going to find something, but just so that it's not a lot of it. That's pretty much what my day looks like. I'm working with the coordinators. I also work with the investigators. I work with the entire team, making sure the investigator has on the right hat. He's not wearing his clinical hat when he should be on the study, because they do their stuff all day, and making sure they know that the protocol is different. It says here you have to do that. I know you do that in your clinical day, but this, you're going to have to do it this way or your kid has to come off. So that's what I do. I enjoy it. I really have worked, like I said, probably in any of these roles that are up here other than the IRB. It's a lot of fun, and you do get to work in a team sport.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Eloise, and thank you all for sharing the opportunities in research careers. And as an investigator, I've worked with a lot of teams and a lot of clinical research support professionals, and I've been learning that many people kind of stumble into these jobs. So my hypothesis is, is it true? Are clinical research professionals stumbling into the positions that they're now currently working in? So I'd like for the panel then to tell us a little about your career journey. How did you come into the work as a clinical research professional support staff?
Yeah, it's definitely circuitous for me. I did not intend to be here, but I am glad that I found my way here. So I actually started as an English teacher, specifically teaching college composition and rhetoric. My bachelor's is in English and my master's is in education. So there is probably not a further, at least ostensibly related field than clinical research, but I was definitely doing that. And then, about 4 years ago now, 3.5, I was wanting to move out here to Cleveland. And a friend of mine worked in the Clinical Research Center at University Hospitals and said, hey, the IRB is hiring. And I didn't really even know what an IRB was at that point. So I said, well, I don't have any experience. And she's like, no, but you have the right personality, you're teachable, and you have a lot of attention to detail. You can do this job. So I applied, and I got it. And when I started it, I had no idea what I was doing. The learning curve is very high if you're coming into regulatory clinical research and you don't have any experience. But the nice thing is, if you can learn, you can do it. And all of you here can learn, so you all can do it. My background prepared me for a great deal of what I actually did end up doing, which is reading, mostly, reading and editing. So looking at protocols, consent forms, having a fine eye for detail, noticing alignment issues, consistency problems, and then working with study teams to correct them. It's not completely different than working with students, really, even though you're all professionals and on the same side in this particular venture. So yeah, it was definitely a weird path, but it was a rewarding one to find myself on, because I honestly don't really want to be doing anything else right now. I love my job, I love my team, and yeah, I'm going to keep doing this for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks, Sean.
Okay, so yeah, as it's been kind of mentioned, you do kind of stumble upon this field. I actually started my research career at UH. I began as an intern, and that kind of led me to my current job. So I went to Xavier University down in Cincinnati, and I majored in healthcare administration or healthcare management. And I graduated in 2018. And coming back to Cleveland, I was pretty much applying to all 3 or 4 major healthcare systems. And I guess it's a lot applying, especially when you don't have a lot of experience. It can be, it's an experience, to put it lightly. But, you know, I feel like you're qualified. If you think you're qualified, I would apply. So never like let that get you down. If you like get the rejection email or anything, I would just keep going at it. And I had a interview with, or a phone interview with UH, and I believe it was for a coordinator position, and the recruiter she kind of saw that I didn't have like a whole lot of experience for the position I was applying for, but she actually offered if I would be interested in an internship, and it was for the UH's center or clinical research center. So. And it was called Grants and Contracts Intern. And I had no idea what that was, but you know, it was the job, and I said sure. So I went through the phone interview, and I arrived at the in-person interview with my feature manager and coworker. And what I realized during that interview is kind of everyone there kind of stumbled upon like their roles. So my manager, she majored in psychology, and my coworker, he was an English major. So I don't want to say it's the norm, but it seems to be a pretty big part of, you know, people's experience. So I did the internship. I did that for about a year, and then I realized that's something I wanted to go forward with. So after the internship, unfortunately, UH was fully staffed, so I had to go back on the job hunt. But I had some experience at that point, and I did apply, and I got a job at Cleveland Clinic. And another piece of advice is I would recommend you don't have to apply for your, like, actually, I won't say that, but my dream job, or the job I wanted was, you know, grants and contracts. Still, they were still looking for people with more experience, but I would recommend, you know, at least getting your foot in the door in a company you want to work for. And that's really how I got my current role now. So I was working in billing and registration at Cleveland Clinic, and I put time in there, and I was able to internally transfer to the job that I had interned for and had experience. So, yeah, that was kind of a journey. But like I said, 3 years in, I've been in my current role. So, yeah.
At least you majored in healthcare management. you had more direction than my undergrad and graduate are both in communication. So how did I end up here? Really good question. After I graduated, I moved to Boston. I wanted a change. And so I was interviewing in all types of industries, and I just happened to get an administrative job at Brigham and Women's Hospital, working for the chief of behavioral neurology there. So I worked in that administrative role for a couple of months before he asked me, "Hey, Katie, are you interested in getting involved in any of the research that I do?" And I'm so thankful that he asked me that, because I answered, as you may imagine, yes, please. And so that's how I kind of got my feet wet in research. I started doing some of the regulatory IRB submissions for him. I started proofing some of his manuscripts. I started helping out with some of his NIH progress reports. And I did that for about 3 years. And that's when I realized, hey, this is something that I really, really like. What I didn't really, really like was living in Boston. I got a little bit homesick, so I decided to move back to Cleveland. Well, fortunately, Cleveland is stocked with healthcare opportunities. So I moved back to Cleveland and immediately started working as a research coordinator at the Cleveland Clinic. So I worked as a research coordinator for several years. Then I moved into a research compliance position, then a research compliance manager position, and now I'm a research administrator at the clinic. So I've been at the clinic for 14 years now. I didn't know that the career that I have now even existed when I was your age. I had no idea. I'm not a clinical person. As I said, I majored in communication theory. I had no idea that this career existed. So I'm really happy to be a part of a panel like this. I'm really happy to be a part of something that exposes you all to research careers that are beyond clinical, and just kind of getting the word out that, hey, you can plan a whole lot better than I did for a research career if that's something that you're interested in.
Thank you, Katie. Rika?
Yes, I'm definitely a non-traditional person when it comes to clinical research. I started off playing Division I basketball and then playing overseas professionally in Spain. Yeah, and I was like, I want to be a doctor later on, and then I'll just come back to it. That not happened. So when I got back from overseas, I was just trying to get my foot in the door, and I ended up going to Case Western Reserve into their master's in medical physiology. Graduated from there, and I was just trying to find a job in cardiology because it was my lowest block exam. So I was like, let me figure out why I tested so poorly in this area, just being honest. And so I just looked up some jobs. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, so I was about like maybe my second year here in Ohio, and I looked at a clinical research position in cardiovascular clinical research. And I applied there, and I got in. Definitely just stumbled upon it, didn't know anything about research. I had never done any type of wet lab research or clinical research before. And so, yeah, and I just got into it, and I love it. Yeah, that's pretty much how I stumbled upon it.
Great, thank you. Eloise?
Yeah, I kind of stumbled into it because it didn't exist when I walked into it. I was a nurse working in pediatrics in the intensive care unit, and looking to go back to school, and because my son had started school, and I actually really needed to get out of the ICU. It had become very, very taxing on me because my son was around the age of the kids that I was taking care of most of the time, and he was in school. So every time there was a bus accident, I just kind of needed to be outside of the ICU for a while until I could hear his voice. I mean, you know that as a parent. But anyways, when I was talking to, the guy that was taking over as director of the ICU, he's coming in, he's getting to know people, and I just told him I'm looking to leave because I want to go back to school. And he said, well, don't leave, because he was in a PhD program at the time as well. Well, before, he's a PhD, he was a PharmD, so he was doing some research. And he said, I got something I need somebody to help me do, your personality, the way you talk to the families, I do believe you can do it. So we talked about it and looked at it, and yeah, something that he made very easy for me to do, that I could still go back to school. The hours were good. I could get my son off to school and be home to get him, and then also work. I mean, the hours during the day was good, but I did take call. So anyways, my husband was home, so we could foot that, and I could still get my way through school. It was so early in this that they didn't even look at these as clinical roles. I worked at Case. They called me a research assistant, which I had no idea what that was, it didn't match my job title at all. But I still worked in the hospital. So I stayed in the hospital, and I took that job, and as we went through it, long story short, I absolutely enjoyed it. And I just worked through from one girl team up to a number of people with teams, changing roles and titles and adding them on, and adding different tools and things that helped us get through our job just so that we could do it. So I kept going, sometimes team of 40, sometimes a team of 2. But we just kept the research going, and I was able to still get through school. And once I finished school, I thought I'd take a job someplace else, but I absolutely love it. And today I won't do anything else. And I just like to say to you guys that you don't have to stumble into it. We've already paved that way for you. We just need to let you know that it's out there. I know I have. We just need to let you know that it's out there. And you can come into these roles. Many of them, I've worked many of them, even some of the ones they're talking about, except the IRB. Didn't sit on the IRB. Maybe I'll go there sometime. But many of these roles, you don't have to have major degrees. You just come into them. Now they have entry levels, coordinators 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever you want to call it, many administrative roles. It's paperwork. It can be clinical, just depending on where your background is and where you start. We've had nurses, medical students. We've had even doctors that come from different countries waiting to get licensure that have worked with us. And they enjoy it. I mean, they have the knowledge. And what I do now is a lot of training them and get them to get to where they can do this job on their own. It's an enjoyable field to be in. So I'm glad you guys can think about it now. The path is out there. You know what it is. And you can start looking for other avenues to work here in research.
Great, thank you, Eloise. And thank you to the panel. Very impressive career pathways. And you can see that a career is not, I'm going to do this at the end. It's really testing, seeing how things go, reflecting within yourself to see what resonates and what doesn't resonate. And I just confirmed my hypothesis, right? I have the sample of 5 wonderful clinical research support professionals who say, yeah, we stumbled into this. So the good news is that the Clinical Translational Science Collaborative is not going to make you all stumble into these careers. We're really creating an infrastructure to help high school students start into research career professional positions. And we're creating an infrastructure. So we're creating a learning management system where we invite you to come into it and to take some classes on research professional career paths, learn about internship programs and other kinds of resources. But I'd like to pause here and just open it up to all of you. Does anyone have a question that you would like to ask the panel? Of course, it's going to take a leader here to stand up and to come to the mic. Do we have a courageous leader to ask a good question? Yes, great. Come to the mic in the center of the path there. Thank you.
I'm Gianna, and would you change anything if you could, like, about your career journey?
Great.
Definitely, I would not. And I was telling one of the volunteers that I literally just got accepted into medical school on Tuesday, this past Tuesday. So I definitely would not change anything. I think everything you do, every opportunity you get, it is what you make it. If you really want to get into research or you have other goals, I would say this is the best avenue of networking, because it's a lot of networking. You get to know a lot of people, and you'll just be surprised. Like, I know we don't, now like Ms. Eloise said, we don't want to stumble into things, but you just so happen to figure out new careers. Like, I had no idea, like, there's physicians also doing clinical research. It all gets connected. And then you have, like, Medtronic, which is a medical company that I work with a lot. They were nurses, and now they're field reps. So I wouldn't change anything. And I think if you, again, take every opportunity, you can make it however you want to make it.
Great question.
Great.
Anyone else on the panel like to answer that one?
I would have started sooner. I would have not waited for that doctor to ask me if I was interested, because I knew that I was. I saw what he was doing, and I knew that I wanted to be a part of it. So I would have been a little bit more courageous and asked to be a part of it. The end result would have been the same, but I wish that I could have looked back and say, I chose this, instead of saying, this happened to me.
It takes a little reflection and a little insight into what you're feeling comfortable in, what excites you. Are you interested in discovery and curiosity? Do you want to be on a team? So kind of engaging in the research arena is part of self-reflection. Good. How about another question?
Hi, I'm Isabella. A lot of like the main theme for today has been having a mentor. Like there's groups of us and we all have a mentor. So my question for you guys is, have you guys had mentors that have really helped inspire you and shape the kind of people that you are today?
Yes to both. Well, I don't know if you asked for both, but yes, I've had a mentor. I've served as a mentor. Even with our team today, we have mentors, or we have mentees as well as mentors. That we go out across the state. We have a group that we work with, and we serve as a mentor. Many of us, I know, in my group, we've served as a mentor with some of the teams that are in. I think the last one was in Massachusetts that we worked with, and so it's a lot of networking, a lot of things that you can do. You'll have people that will help you along the way. You'll have people that'll mentor you through in your own team that you have to get you started in the role, to help you understand what your role is. And there's many roles now, and in data coordinators, regulatory coordinators, all the roles that you heard about up here. And one of the, I find, because that's where I started, is the coordinator role. And it's probably, sorry guys, one of the most important pieces of research. Research doesn't go anywhere without coordinators. So yeah, if you start there, and yeah, you'll have people on your team that will do that as well.
Anybody else? Oh, good. Mark.
Yeah, so I didn't really have mentors, but during my internship, I think I was 21 or 22 years old, and being like and like I said, I didn't really have like a ton of experience, and I think that's one of the great things about internships is you get work experience, but I think you get inside work life experience. So as I said at the other panel, I didn't really know how to like write a professional email. Organization was not the best. And just building relationships with people that were older than me, because I was the youngest in my team. So I think a lot of my coworkers kind of took me under their wing. Like my one coworker, he drafted my resume, which was so helpful. And also just like the networking. As I said earlier, I used to work at UH, and I do see some familiar faces that I feel like I could still kind of, I don't want to say ask for a favor, but if I needed something, I feel like they would be more than willing to help. So I think your coworkers and people will just try and help you out, especially if you're just coming into the field. So.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give a quick shout out to Beth Hoggesfeld and Malia Fink, who were both my managers at one point. Malia is my current manager, and Beth, who is now the director of the Clinical Research Center. They were fantastic mentors in terms of showing me the ropes to HRPP specific clinical research and the IRB. And they kind of set the tone for what a good work environment would be and how to really express yourself well and work well with other people. Because here's the thing, when you're working with people, no matter what your job is, people won't always remember what you tell them, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And so that is something that I learned, not just here, but throughout my entire professional career, as being a good people person and working well with others collaboratively.
Good, great question.
Just being in high school or college, I know it's like, okay, how do I get a mentor? Because coming out of high school, I didn't have like a mentor for what I was trying to do. Does that make sense? So just so you know, don't be afraid to email. Like, I went to UH when I got the job. I'm like trying to find people who's a doctor. Just email, because they will email you back usually. I'm sure Cleveland Clinic the same way. Just, hey, I'm interested in this. Can I come and have a lunch with you? And sometimes the doctors always pay for it. So you always like, sure, come on, I'll pay for it. But just have a conversation. You can build that mentorship, because I know it's hard to like, I'm coming out of high school. What am I doing? If I'm taking a gap year, am I going into college? Don't be afraid to reach out. If you have to annoy them, they'll be okay. They understand. They get annoyed every day. So just, hey, I'm interested in this. I really want to talk to you. or maybe they can point you into somebody who has time to do it. So coming out of high school and college, please do that, because they really don't mind mentoring wherever you go.
Great. Great question. Mentorship is a key, and please take advantage today. We have another few hours. Reach out to people who you think you might like just to talk with, and say, "Hi, my name is, and I'm from here, and tell me about your experience." Oh, we have another emerging scientist coming to the mic.
Hi, my name is Lynette Gerardo. I work as an assistant professor in the Department of Bioethics. I have my daughter, Giselle, who is 8 years old, and she told me she wanted to ask you all a question, but she got a little nervous, so I'm helping her with my...
What do you like about your job most?
Great question, Janelle. Thank you for stepping up to the mic.
That is a great question because we talked a little bit at the beginning of today about how life is short, and so you should spend your time doing something that you care about. So I love that question. What I like most about my job, Giselle, is that I am surrounded by physicians and teams that care passionately about what they're doing. They love what they're doing. They are voluntarily taking on additional work and additional responsibilities because they care so much about improving the health of other people. They want so badly to help other people that they are willing to take on so much extra work. They are so curious and so interested, and they want to learn so much that they are willing to spend so much time and effort of their own to make other people's lives better. And that's what I like best about my job.
Giselle, what I like best about my job and what I've always loved about my job is I get to take care of little people like you. I've been taking care of little people my entire career. And for the most of it, although I did work a little bit with adults, I mostly work with little people like your size and younger. And just as Katie said, with the doctors that I work with, they want to make sure that every part of your little body works the way it's supposed to, that they protect you from any illnesses that's out there. And that's what we do. We work on those medicines, we work on different things, different devices, anything that we can find that's going to help you grow up and become someone that's working in a field like us.
Yeah, so
Is that good
thank you.
enough?
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful question. I think we're going to have to end this session, but thank you all for coming to here. If you're interested to continue participation and probably give us some feedback, we have a table in the back where we're asking for volunteers to be part of a focus group or to learn if you're interested in an internship program this summer for clinical research. And I hope that you all agree with me that the panel was excellent, so let's give them a round of applause. And thank you so much. I'll take it to Laura.